Thank you to Yanmar for bringing us this video series. Don't settle for less when you can have more. Yanmar's tractors are designed to work as hard as you do for a lifetime. Strengthen your dealership with Yanmar today.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the right people, and then we put good processes in place, and your compensation program reinforces your process. That's why you compensate people. We are a performance-based compensation consultants. I tell people again, you're going to make more money in the dealerships we consult with, not because you came in the door more times than somebody else, but because you performed higher than somebody else performed. So I'm not a big fan of door prices. I tell people again, if you've been working with me 10 years and I've been paying you 10 years, everything we agreed on, I don't owe you anything, right? But if you've been working with me 10 years and every year you're getting better, and every year you're investing in education and you're investing in tools, I'm going to pay you more per hour, and I'm going to create opportunities for you to make more money. Because my goal in business is I want to find good people and pay good people well. Would you all agree? I know I hear all the people, so the last thing people want to do is pay employees well. No, everybody wants to pay their employees well, because what's the most painful part of owning a business? Going out and finding new what? New employees. So let's find good people, and then let's make sure that these good people are paid well enough that they never want to leave us and go someplace else. But I'm not going to pay you more than I should. It's going to be paid based upon some performance number. So we're going to talk about compensation, and I tell people again, most people's compensation programs are demotivational, not motivational, right? You can't bonus people once a year and expect them to be excited and motivated, because they don't think anything about it. When I see programs that are said, well, we're going to give you a bonus at the end of the year based upon profitability, that doesn't drive performance, right? I may get it, I may not get it, but I don't have really any control over it. Right? And I don't even think about it till I get in December and I go, gosh, I wonder what my bonus is going to be. Am I going to get a turkey this year or a ham? Right? So I tell people your programs have to be something that people get excited about. Then they have to be done on a regular basis and consistently. A bonus should never be more than 30 days. Never more than 30. Right? And we try to keep bonuses between 2 weeks and 30 days. So every 2 weeks or 30 days, you're going to get a bonus. Why do we want a bonus on a more regular basis? Because people then can do what? They can change their behavior. Gosh, if I do this for the next 2 weeks, I can get a bonus. Not if I do this for the next 12 months, I can get a bonus. You lose track of what's going on out there. So that's what we want to talk about a little bit. And again, your goal is to create a compensation program that is tied into performance. So let's talk about them. The first thing I tell people again is we have to figure out what our salary cap is. Now people say, well, how much can I pay? And I says, well, it depends upon several factors. But just as the NFL, does every NFL team have the exact same salary cap? Yes, they do. Every NFL team has X amount of dollars they can spend on players. So I always tell people, this is the fascinating thing to me. So do the New England Patriots have the exact same salary cap as the Cleveland Browns? Yes, they do. Okay, one's better at hiring than the other. Would you agree? Okay, but they have the same amount of money to pay out, right? And I tell people, so the salary cap has nothing to do with performance. It just says, this is how much I've got. And what we have to do is figure out who can we hire to fit those kind of positions. So your salary cap is based upon some specific things. And it's going to be based upon either your recoverable labor rate, and we're going to get into this in just a second. I'm going to flip over to another slide, or your gross profitability in parts or sales. So it's relatively easy to figure out when people say, I don't know how much I can afford to pay. The first thing we have to do is say, well, let's just see how much money you have available. Every department, every dealership has a salary cap, right? And I can't pay more than that, because if I pay more than that, what's going to happen? I'm going to go broke. Okay, so there's a salary cap there. So let's go through and figure out what our salary caps are. So the first one we're going to talk about is service, because that is my lifeblood in my business and what we do. When most of what we do is in service and parts. So in service, the salary cap is based upon using your recovered labor rate. So we have 3 labor rates in a shop. We have a posted labor rate, we have an effective labor rate, and we have a recoverable labor rate. So your effective labor rate is your posted labor rate minus unpaid warranty claims minus customer discounts, write-downs, and things like that. That's what the effective labor rate is. What I want you to do for this is use your recoverable labor rate. So what is my recoverable labor rate based upon my warranty rate with manufacturer? So if my labor rate is $80 an hour and I'm recovering 90% of that on warranty claims, then my recoverable labor rate would not be 80, but it would be 72. Okay, so I want you, and how many people know what your recoverable labor rate is in your shop? If you don't, that's a number you should know. And all you have to do is go back and look at your warranty claims, what percent of your warranty claims are being paid, and then you can take that and figure out what your recoverable labor rate is. So there are really 3 labor rates in a shop: posted, effective, and recoverable. Effective is going to be lower than that. So I don't want to use effective. I want to use recoverable on that. Then it's pretty easy from that point, as I posted on my Facebook just a moment ago. A technician gets 30% of your recoverable labor rate. So if my recoverable labor rate is 70, let's just use that as a number, how much could I pay a technician who's 100% efficient? $21 an hour. So if my recoverable labor rate is 70, I could pay a technician $21 an hour. I would pay 75% of that out in hourly and 25% of it out in bonus. I always want to give them more hourly because everybody has a family, food, houses they need to take care of. I'm not a big fan of flat rating or straight commission for sales or service technicians in this industry. It doesn't work well. I've seen it tried. It just doesn't work well. It works pretty good in automotive, works pretty good in trucking. It's not a good fit in this one. So I would take that 30 of my recoverable. I'd say I've got $21 there. Of that $21, 75% of that should be hourly. And I've got to show them how they can make the other 25% in bonuses as we go through and do it. And I'll talk about that in just a second. So of that recoverable labor rate, 30% is going to go to the technician, 20% is going to go to offset my cost of management. Okay, so I got a service manager or a service manager or a service writer, maybe a shop foreman. This is my management team, whatever that is. So I'm going to use my recoverable labor rate again at 70. So every hour produced in the shop, how much of that hour do I have available for me to pay a management team? Service manager, service writer. $14 an hour. So if I got 3 technicians, it's 3 times $14 an hour. So every hour, this is how much I have available for the cost of managing that group of people. I got 2 technicians. I got $28 per hour. I have to be able to pay my management team with that $28 of every hour produced in the shop. 30% for departmental costing. I have a department I have to pay for. I got to heat it, light it, right? Even if you own it, you're going to be renting it from yourself. Most of you, right? You all have your businesses set up aside as a separate S or LLC. Okay. So you're going to be renting it from yourself, right? I have unemployment, workers' comp, Social Security. I got to pay on that salaries for those people. That's a part of my departmental costing. I have an accounting department. I got a bookkeeper, most likely, that I'm going to be paying part of theirs on there. And if you're an owner or a general manager, part of your cost has to come out of this here. So if I'm an owner, part of my salary has to come out of that departmental costing. Okay. And then I expect every owner to net 20% of every labor dollar produced in the shop. So if my recoverable labor rate is $70 an hour, I'd expect an owner for every hour produced in the shop to put $14 of it in their pocket. Okay, and this is a sad thing that I see in shops. The shop is the most profitable part of your entire dealership, and it's the one that you guys lose money on. Guys, you set your labor rate, you decide how much you're going to charge, right? Right? And you buy parts from yourself. How could you not make money in this situation? Everything is perfect in a shop if you just run your shop right. But this is how we would figure out how to pay it. So 30% of my labor rate, my recoverable labor rate, would be going to the tech. What percent of that 30% is salary or hourly? 75% and 25% is going to be back in bonuses. I do basically the same thing here. I make 75% of that management thing is salary, and they're going to get the other 25% in what? In bonuses. I make everybody have to earn some of it in bonuses. This is how I get my performance up. If you give everybody everything, then all of a sudden you find that it doesn't work. It's like not paying salespeople part of their money on commissions or things like this, and pretty soon everybody just kind of does whatever they do, and it's just the way it is. Departmental costing, I take 20%, 10% out of that, and I set aside in a pool bonus for my department. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and then 20% to the net to the owners. Out of this up here, people say, okay, well, how do you do the 25% in the shop? In our world, it's based upon percentages. So again, if you're 85 to 100% efficient as a technician, we would give you a $2 bonus per billable hour. If you're 101 to 125% efficient, we would give you a $4 bonus on every billable hour you produced. And if you're 126% efficient or higher, we would give you a $6 bonus on every billable hour you produced. So in a 2-week period of time, if you were a technician and you were there for 80 hours, I would need you to produce 68 hours of billable time to qualify for my bonus. You still get your hourly rate, which is 75% of what I'm going to pay you, but the other 25% is going to come in the context of some sort of performance bonus. $2 bonus if you're at 85 to 100%. So if you got 68 billable hours in an 80-hour period of time, a 2-week period of time, On those 68 billable hours, you would get 68 times $2. So you get your normal hourly rate plus about $136, right? That'd be correct, right? About $136, okay? If you were 101 to 125% efficient, so now in an 80-hour week, if you build out 81 hours in an 80-hour week, you get a $4 bonus on those 81 hours instead of $2 bonus. So that time that you build out, now you're going to get $320 some odd dollars instead of $130 some odd dollars. On 80, $4 times 81, because that would be 101% efficient. Or if you're 126% efficient, now in an 80-hour week, you're punching out about 100 hours, so you'd get a $6 bonus on those, and so you get a $600 bonus in that 2-week period instead of a $300 or a $100, plus your normal hourly rate. Now, most of our technicians, gyms and shops all the time, so am I, so am Brian's, most of my A-level technicians are billing out 11 to 12 hours every day in the shop. And they're making an extra $15,000 to $18,000 a year in bonuses, plus their normal hourly rate. And so when people say you can't make money being a technician, you can make more money than you ever dreamed. Technician is one of the highest paid positions in a dealership, a good double technician. But you got to keep a technician turning her what? Turning a wrench. Here's the mistake. You guys use your technicians for unloading trucks. You use your technicians for coming up front and helping out in sales. You got a technician that can make you $80 an hour, and they're up there talking to somebody about a $149 string trimmer you're going to make $20 on? Really? That's how you're going to use your time? I tell people again, we can't use our technicians for anything other than let them be a technician. You're my surgeon, right? We tend to think that technicians are this person we can have do all these other things. Just let technicians go back and turn wrenches. They'll make you a ton of money. Our managers are bonused on recovery rate. And we're going to talk about these tomorrow when I talk about managing by the numbers. So this is tech efficiency here. This is recovery rate. And recovery rate is how many hours am I buying versus how many hours am I selling. So if I'm a service manager and I've got 2 technicians and I'm buying 8 hours a day per technician, I've got 16 hours that I need to do what with today? I got to sell it to somebody, because if I don't sell it, what do we do with that time that I didn't sell? Can we move it into tomorrow? No, it's like buying a gallon of milk. If I only use 3/4 of the gallon, at the end of the day, I got to do what? Got to pour it out. But tomorrow you're going to buy another what? Gallon. Then what are we going to do at the end of the day? Okay, maybe we should just buy 1.5 quarts. What do you think, right? So I tell people again, we tend to buy time and then we get rid of it, but we don't hold the management accountable for it. So if you're a manager of a service department, there's no reason that you shouldn't be selling 85% of all your time every day. And if you're not, something's wrong in that. So my managers are bonus based upon the recovery rate in the shop. So if you're 85 to 95% recovery, then you get a bonus. If you're 96 to 105%, you get a bigger bonus for every hour produced in the shop. And if you're recovering at 106% or higher, you get your maximum bonus. So my service managers, if they're maximizing their bonuses, are going to get the exact same amount of bonus as my highest paid technician if they're recovering at 106%. And to recover at 106% means I got a 4-inch hose that is running a little bit over 4 inches of water through it. Okay, so you're really pushing it. How do we know when we need another technician? We're consistently recovering in that 95 to 100% range. You don't add a technician in a shop until you're recovering at least 95% of all the time you're selling. Because if I add another technician, automatically now instead of 16 hours a day to sell, I got how many? 24. Okay, well if not selling 16, why would we buy another gallon of milk? Okay, so that's the thing that we do, but these numbers tell us what to do there. So that's our compensation for service. And again, if you got questions on this or things like this, I'm going through it relatively fast here. But again, get with Jim, get with Brian, get with Jeff. We will help you through these numbers and help you figure out, number one, the first thing is what your salary cap is. How much can we pay out, right? And again, people say, well, I can't afford to hire a good technician. Well, then you do what? If you need, you do what? Help that. You raise your labor rate, because your labor rate is what you use to determine how much you're going to have to pay technicians to keep them. The automotive and the trucking industry does that. When they set a labor rate, they don't set a labor rate based upon the community. They say, look, it's going to cost me $40 an hour with bases and bonuses to get a really good A-level technician. So to do that, I got to charge how much an hour? $120 an hour. Okay? You guys tend to set your labor rate based upon what? You call who? Your competition. Okay, and then they say, well, we're at 65. Okay, that's great. And so, well, guys, Bob, I can't go more than 65 because all my competitors are. We call that in our company pooling ignorance. Okay, so if you call everybody and everybody else is calling you, pretty soon you're all where? So you don't base your labor rate based upon what all your competitors are doing. You charge how much, Tim? $125 an hour. How many people scream and shout and yell and never come back and do business with you? There's a few. There's going to be 15% of the people that are going to bitch and complain about your labor rate. You know that? It's the same 15%. If you charge $50 an hour, it would do what? Do you understand that? I tell people there's 15% of the people out there always going to complain about something. You don't build your pricing around that 15%. You build it around the 85%. So that's how you determine. And I always tell people say, you just can't find good technicians. I say, not for $20 an hour. You can't find a good A-level technician anywhere for $20 an hour, but you can find them for 30. You can find them for 35. Well, I can't afford to pay that. Then you move up your what? Your labor rate. If they don't do business with you, where are they going to go? Where are they going to go? Where in Tullahoma am I going to go to get my equipment fixed, Nathan, if you and Linda go out of business? Because if you don't charge the right thing, what's going to ultimately happen to your business? Because you can't find good what? I tell people again, we move our pricing up to offset the cost of what we have to have for labor. Everybody else in the industry does it. We tend not to do it in our business. You've got to change your labor rates to reflect what it's going to cost you to get technicians. How many people feel like you could find a good technician for 40 or 50 bucks an hour? Okay, all right. So when people say technicians aren't available, they're just not available for what we're willing to pay. You got to change your strategy on it. There are good technicians out there, and they're just waiting for you to get the pay structure right so they can make it. And they will make you a ton of money. They'll make you a ton of money.